delete my name. Please, I'm begging you to delete my name. Those are the words of a woman who was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking and rape conspiracy when she was a teenager, when she was legally underage in the state of Florida. She is one of the survivors who has never come forward publicly. Never. We've seen dozens of survivors speaking publicly outside of the Capitol last year, urging Congress to pass a law forcing the release of the Epstein files, a law that Congress passed and Donald Trump signed into law, surely expecting that his Justice Department, that he controls, would violate that law, as the Trump Justice Department has done. The Trump Justice Department keeps finding new ways to violate the law. They violated the deadline in the law by more than a month, and then they violated the requirement to deliver all of the Epstein files to Congress, not just a portion. And they violated the law requiring them to redact the names of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators, including the convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. The Trump-controlled Justice Department redacted the names of the three co-defendants of Jeffrey Epstein in a draft federal indictment that was dropped by Alex Acosta, who was then the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, and then later became Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor during the first Trump administration. The indictment that Republican U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta decided not to pursue is 56 pages long and describes the sex trafficking crimes of Jeffrey Epstein beginning in 2002. That indictment was part of the Epstein files release that we got over the weekend, last Friday. The first page of that indictment has 3 redactions. And those 3 redactions, right here, on the first page of this indictment, let me get it into the camera. Those 3 redactions are the 3 names of Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators in this draft indictment, who the indictment says were employed by Jeffrey Epstein, quote, to perform, among other things, services as personal assistants. So the indictment describes those co-defendants literally leading children upstairs in Jeffrey Epstein's home for their first encounter with Jeffrey Epstein. Quote, in or around May 2004, defendant redacted led Jane Doe number 6 from the kitchen at 356 El Brillo Way upstairs to the master bedroom area at 358 El Brillo Way. In or around May 2004, defendant Jeffrey Epstein redacted Jane Doe 6, who was then a 16-year-old girl. Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator and co-defendants in this indictment, the one who led that girl upstairs to Jeffrey Epstein, is one of the people whose identity Donald Trump's Justice Department doesn't want you to know and was very, very careful to protect. But that same Trump Justice Department did not protect many of those girls who were led upstairs by Jeffrey Epstein's criminal co-conspirators, including Ghislaine Maxwell. Attorney Bradley Edwards represents hundreds of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and has told us on this program that only a very small number of the total number of survivors have ever come forward publicly. Bradley Edwards is now asking federal judges to intervene and force the Trump Justice Department to, as one of his clients pleads, delete my name. In a filing to the federal judges, Bradley Edwards revealed some of the violations of the Epstein Transparency Act that the Trump Justice Department has committed. 1, documents in which minor victim 1 had her name revealed 20 times in a single document. After reporting the violation, Department of Justice redacted her name 3 additional times, leaving 17 instances still unredacted as of this filing. 2, an email listing 32 minor child victims with only one name redacted and 31 left visible despite Department of Justice's possession of those names. 3. FBI 302 victim statements with full first and last names unredacted, including for minor victims. 4. Handwritten FBI interview notes with minor victims' full names unredacted at the top and throughout. 5. Documents containing victims' names alongside dates of birth, bank information, driver's license numbers, email addresses, or home addresses. 6. Documents where victims' names are redacted in some places but not others within the same document. 7. Documents where redactions are pencil thin, revealing the complete name and email address beneath. 8. Documents where photographs are properly redacted in one instance and appear fully unredacted nearby. 9. Hundreds of documents exposing the names of 4 women who have been in near constant communication with the Department of Justice since December, requesting protection. Donald Trump's Justice Department did not give them that protection. Bradley Edwards told the judges the Department of Justice cannot plausibly characterize this as error, negligence, or bureaucratic failure. But that is exactly what Donald Trump's Justice Department claimed: human error. Today, the Trump Justice Department said in a letter to the judges, quote, the department now has taken down several thousands of documents and media that may have inadvertently included victim identifying information due to various factors, including technical or human error. This is the same Trump Justice Department that for the first time in history raided a county office to seize voting records last week. Not copies of voting records, the actual voting records. How many human errors do they plan to make with those voting records? This is the same Trump Justice Department that now claims it is going to conduct an investigation of what video shows clearly to be the murder of registered nurse Alex Preddy in Minneapolis by federal Border Patrol agents sent there by Donald Trump. How many human errors does Donald Trump's Justice Department plan to make in that investigation that they first said was completely unnecessary? Attorney Bradley Edwards' pleading to the judges included direct statements from some of his clients whose identities have been revealed. One of the Epstein survivors in Bradley Edwards' filing, identified as Jane Doe number 5, wrote this to the judges: I have never come forward. I am now being harassed by the media and others. This is devastating to my life. Please pull my name down immediately, as every minute that these document with my names are up, it causes more harm to me. Please, I'm begging you to delete my name. I can only imagine the devastation your errors are causing to so many other victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Wasn't the only job to redact victims' names? Hasn't every person with authority promised repeatedly that victims have nothing to worry about because our names will be redacted? Hasn't the entire delay of producing documents been allegedly because you have been redacting names? Judge Richard Berman of the Southern District of New York has scheduled a hearing on the issues raised by Bradley Edwards for Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. It's not just names. Epstein survivor Annie Farmer, who testified convincingly to a jury in Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial that resulted in a unanimous verdict of guilty by that jury, told the New York Times, quote, it's hard to imagine a more egregious way of not protecting victims than having full nude images of them available for the world to download. Yes, Donald Trump's Justice Department did that in direct violation of the law passed by our first guest tonight that forced the Trump Justice Department to deliver the Epstein files to Congress. Congressman Ro Khanna, along with his original co-sponsor of the legislation, Republican Thomas Massie, gained the support and confidence of Epstein survivors by showing them the language in the law that they were proposing that made it impossible for Donald Trump's Justice Department to release photographs of them, any kind of photographs of them. The law made it impossible for Donald Trump's Justice Department to release their names, their addresses, their email addresses. The law made it impossible for Donald Trump's Justice Department to release any information about the survivors. But the Trump Justice Department refused to follow the law. The last president presidential election meant that the Justice Department would abandon the mission of upholding the law and simply break the law at will with impunity and Donald Trump's approval. The name that appears in the Epstein files, second only to the name Epstein, is the name Trump. The New York Times, using its own search software, revealed this count of Trump mentions. Using a proprietary search tool, the New York Times identified more than 5,300 files containing more than 38,000 references to Mr. Trump, his wife, his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, and other related words and phrases in the latest batch of emails, government files, videos, and other records released by the Justice Department. Previous installments of the Epstein files, which the department released late last year, included another 130 files with Trump-related references. None of those files include any direct communication between Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein. Mr. Trump is one of half a dozen prominent men about whom the agency's files include salacious information, according to an email an FBI official wrote to a colleague last year. The newly released files also include notes and transcripts of interviews that federal investigators conducted with Mr. Epstein's victims, some of whom describe interactions with Mr. Trump, for instance. Handwritten notes from one interview in September 2019, about a month after Mr. Epstein died by suicide in a Manhattan jail, say that a victim whose name has been redacted recalled being transported in a dark green car to Mar-a-Lago to meet Mr. Trump. This is a good one, huh? The victim recalls Mr. Epstein saying to Mr. Trump. The notes do not suggest misconduct by Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has denied any wrongdoing in connection to Mr. Epstein.